All right. Are y'all there?
I'm here.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yay. Okay.
Here, let me correct the link on the last line and then we'll be ready to.
Okay.
You guys on?
All right. Hello and welcome to Let's Talk Impact from Southeast Texas Impact Initiative.
Hello.
Um,
Hi, everybody.
Okay. So I'll start. This is the very first show of the Southeast Texas Impact. Let's Talk Impact. This is going to be a conversation-driven podcast where we're going to explore how policies, community choices, and everyday actions change and shape the life in Southeast Texas and what we experience. We're going to break down complex issues in plain language, make it easy for everybody across the board to kind of understand what it is that we're trying to say. We want to center on local voices, so we want to specifically focus on what impacts our areas and our communities. We're going to connect the dots between health, inclusion, and civic life so people can better understand the impact that we all share. And that is really going to be the focus of this podcast.
So today, on this episode of Let's Talk Impact, we're going to sit down with Mel Spell, the founder of The Last Line. That's a group dedicated to exploring moral and ethical boundaries and how holding those lines can protect democracy and human dignity. Mel is a web developer, photographer, and community-driven creative based in Southeast Texas. She's the founder of The Last Line and describes herself as the architect, not the leader. The Last Line is a values-based civic movement centered on moral courage, shared humanity, and refusing to normalize dehumanization. Thank you. Sorry. Through storytelling, visual work, and simple, recognizable symbols, Mel creates a space for people to identify their own moral boundaries and act with clarity and dignity. Her work is intentionally nonpartisan, rooted in nonviolence, community, and disciplined moral action. So, just real quick before we jump into it, we'll introduce Mel. Danae, you want to tell us who you are and how you're connected with Impact?
Yep. So my name is Danae Wilcutt, and I am actually a transplant to Texas. I'm from Nevada originally, but I've been here for 18 years, so longest I've ever lived anywhere. I started with Southeast Texas Impact Initiative really from the very beginning, from the formation of it, and have recently stepped into the role of Director of Communications on the Board of Directors. And I'm very excited about this.
Yes, we're excited to have you. I'm Jennifer, president of Impact. Also been around since day one, and it's done a lot in my life and made my life look very different over the past year, and I've appreciated every minute of it. So, doing that, let's introduce our guest. This is Mel Spell, founder of The Last Line.
Hi, guys.
Hey,
welcome, Mel.
Awesome. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you guys.
Great.
Your organization is amazing, and to be invited to share space with you is an honor. So thank you so much.
For us as well.
Yes, we're glad to have
let's
you.
just jump into it. So for people who are listening, and this is the first time that they may have heard about The Last Line, could you explain to us what is The Last Line?
So first and foremost, it's a new idea. It was born from the division that we're currently experiencing and being asked constantly to choose a side, right? It's like in this current climate, I'm around people who started to, talk about all the issues that we're currently experiencing, like all the time, and asking me how I felt about it. And then when you say how you feel about it, people get combative and things start happening. And it started leaning more into beyond politics, right? It started leaning beyond politics into what I felt was questions of morality. And when it got to that point, actually I was laying in bed, and I kept asking myself, insert latest headline. It was a few days before we experienced Renee Good.
Mm-hmm.
And we kept asking, like, where's the line? Like, what's the line? Where's that going to be? And so this idea was born that if we gave people a way to identify what their line was above and beyond politics, and be able to identify what they were willing to accept as normal, then we could help shape maybe a future we want to be a part of. And so that's how the last line was born, and kind of what it is. But as we talk about this more, I think the understanding of what the movement that we're trying to create will come more into light.
So, yeah, you kind of explained a little bit about how you evolved into this idea. Was there a moment, a realization that took you from considering it and creating actual action? So, like, why now? Why is it right now?
Because right now I feel more division than I felt in my lifetime.
Mm.
I felt more like we're on this like precipice, right? We're on this moment in history that feels like we're going to look back, and right now is going to have a name. I don't know what that's going to be, but it's going to have a name. And I keep asking myself, what side of history would I want to be on as these things happen?
Mm-hmm.
How do I want my children to remember how I behaved, or how I, represented the community that I stand up for on the daily? Like, what did I say? Did I let things go by, or did I stand up for what I believed was right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, and it also became a point where doing nothing and just sitting by and watching it happen as a spectator felt too neutral to me. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I was just allowing it to happen. And so the moment started to feel urgent, because I think we feel, I don't think I'm alone in feeling the shift that we're in right now. And
Right.
that things have they've gotten to a level for sure.
It's
Yeah.
hard not to think of the Desmond Tutu quote when you say things like that, right? Like about choosing the side of the oppressor, when we're silent and we don't act against oppression. And there are areas, I think, that it does feel like that. Like you said, it's moved past politics into this sort of space of um, what are we allowing to happen, and
Mm-hmm.
that it's like a red flag, and over very concerning every day. Like, we're shocked, our senses are shocked. And so I agree. I think it's a difficult time, and we have to decide if we're going to move, if we're going to act, if we're going to defend what we believe is right, or if we're going to sit back and just watch this play out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there
Yeah.
are a lot of people that need the language, right?
Right.
They need the language to be able to pinpoint like what they can do, or, understand what the options are in this moment. Because a lot of us feel helpless right now. And like, I may be speaking out of turn, but I don't think I'm alone in that.
No.
No, but you did mention something that is an interesting thing, and for me is everything over the last year has felt so political. But you made a comment that this has gone past political into morality. Can you explain what that distinction means to you? Where we're taking it past, it's not political. This is about morality. What does that mean to you?
Well, I mean, I was raised in South Texas, right? I was raised with South Texas values. I was raised in church. I was taught a certain set of values that I were told were important, and the people that surrounded me with those taught me that I should live by those, like a code, right? Like, do unto others as we would want done unto ourselves. And I don't think that humanity, like keeping our humanity and not dehumanizing other people, should be a political talking point, right? That seems like that's like should cross party lines. Like, at some point we have to determine as a nation and as a collective, what's the baseline? What line are we not willing to go backwards on?
Mm-hmm.
And like, what does that look like? What are we going to sit at tables maybe we should have flipped?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we've seen a lot of blurred and collapsed lines. I think that's been shocking for people, right? We've heard over the past decade people standing on these values that they proclaimed for a very long time. And so you thought you could trust that as a boundary, as a line. And then watching that erode repeatedly gets I think it's confusing. And so I think it is good when you talk about giving people language. We're watching all of these lines, these value lines, these boundaries erode. And so it's confusing when you look around, nothing feels steady, right? Everything's
Yeah.
negotiable. And
Yeah.
and that does cause a lot of alarm and fear and insecurity in people. So I think that's great, the idea that if we give people language to sort of name their line, their spot, it empowers them to hold it better, I suppose.
Hmm.
So when you talk about holding the line, what does that actually look like in everyday life?
Well, I think it's different for everybody, right? Like
Mm,
everybody, some people are going to just be present, right? Some people are just going to refuse to shrink and disappear. And some people are going to choose to make, moral, nonviolent civic stands, or they're going to speak out when they see an error or when they
mhm,
see somebody being treated poorly. They're not going to, I mean, I don't ever encourage, Facebook trolling by any
Hmm.
means, but they're not going to scroll past something that goes beyond, like, that's not okay to say that. You
mhm,
know,
Hmm.
some people are going to be there and people are going to be in all different places because not everybody in this moment can stand out and be loud. And
right.
there needs to be space for them too to feel like they have the ability to make a difference. And even if that's like, you know, wearing a shirt that we'll talk about probably in a little bit and like showing presence that you're not alone so
Mhm,
that
Hmm.
when we're out doing things, we feel like we're part of something instead of on an island just screaming into the ethos that no one is hearing. And
right.
so, I want to make sure that we understand that whatever this becomes moving forward, it's not meant to break the rule of law
Hmm.
or to incite violence of any kind. I don't condone that on any level. I just want us to remind each other where our humanity is and to stand up for each other, just like we were told as little kids we needed to do on the playground. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Because that's kind of the line, right? You're holding the
right,
line. I am not going to lower the way that I treat my fellow humans because of the atmosphere that's out there today. My line is decency and humanity first. And that could look different for someone else, but but I think it's really important to understand that this isn't a fight back movement. This is it from what it sounds like what you're saying, this is more about a way for us to come together, right?
it's a way for us to come together because, I don't know that there's never going to be something that we need to do or that we need to accomplish, right? But I'm
Mhm,
Hmm.
trying to bring us together on, in ways that the things we want to see, right? Because if we become the thing that we're fighting,
mhm,
Hmm. Yeah.
what was it all for?
Yep.
yep,
Then just it bounces back from one side to the other on this giant pendulum swing, and we don't get anywhere. We just end up in this path of chaos. And you know, my line, right? My line is I won't stand for racism,
Hmm.
homophobia. I won't stand for the dehumanization of people,
mhm,
right? I won't stand by and watch things that I feel harm other beings.
Hmm.
And I want my country and my, fellow humans and Americans alike to treat everybody with the values that we've been sold all this many years,
You know, yes, what's interesting about that, as you were saying that, I was thinking, as I thought about what would my line be, one thing I often say is people can do what they want as long as they don't hurt anybody else. And
Right.
so
Yes.
I think generally speaking, the harm is my definitive line. Now I'm sure I've got smaller lines before that, things that offend my sensibilities that I won't engage in or whatever. But my
Right.
hard line is where harm is extended to others. And I think we're at a stage, you talk about don't troll on, we don't want to troll online and stuff like that, and we don't. But if there is no pushback to some of the discourse that's out there, it's concerning because you see a lot of people enjoying, relishing, cheering on harm to other people. And that
So
is concerning.
crazy. So wild.
Right. And so before,
It's
like
so
you
crazy.
said, this, whether or not this becomes a movement of doing something, we can't even know what we could do until we've all kind of come to an understanding that there has to be a line accepted by society, a social contract, that this is something we all don't cross. I feel like not harming people is a pretty good one, but I'm struggling to see,
Baseline.
yes, I'm
Mhm.
struggling to see everybody even agree on that at the moment. And so it's
Right.
concerning. So I do think that a movement like this, where you start with connection, discussion, eh, explore our values that lead us to these decisions, like all of that is necessary before you ever do anything, you
Hmm.
know? So that's interesting. Anyway, I'm
No,
moving on.
no,
Yeah, no,
I
I
think
think
that's good. Because that's one of the things that I think it's really important that we acknowledge is that this is not just one side's answer. It's a way
Right.
for both sides to come together. It's not meant to be inclusive of us, but exclusive to them. It's finding the common ground again that we used to have, finding the acceptance that it's okay that we have different belief systems. It's okay that we have different ideologies. It's not okay that your ideology causes harm to people in my community. It's not
Right.
okay that your ideology allows for the treatment that we're seeing on our social media, on the news of, at the end of the day, human beings.
Hmm.
And I think it's important that we understand that this is more of a unifying thing than a separation thing that we've been seeing.
yeah, I totally agree.
So with that unity in mind, how do you define unity without asking people to just ignore the fact that there is harm and there is injustice that we want to fight? How do we have those conversations and that communication with the other side and create that unity when we so strongly feel that this is such an injustice being done?
I'm not asking anyone to ignore the injustice or the harm. I don't
Mm-hmm.
ignore it,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like I'm asking them to I'm asking people to try to come together on what common ground we can find. You know, just like we've been talking about. I think we can all agree that like we shouldn't be dehumanizing people in the seeking of power,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
right? At a baseline. Like we shouldn't, and I keep getting told in things like, well, we're going to accomplish this or we're going to accomplish that and all of those things, right? But if we look at the end of the day, what is the cost at the things that we're being told? And so I want us to decide, hopefully, in a good, and I'm idealistic. So in the best case scenario, right, that we could decide what cost we're willing to pay and understand that like some things just aren't worth it,
Right.
right? Like some things aren't worth it. But I want to create a space that's okay for people who maybe thought that this wasn't going to happen, to
Mm-hmm.
be able
Yeah.
to feel comfortable with saying, hey, like I thought this thing, but I didn't understand that this is what was going to happen. And I heard that people were talking this way, and I'm not okay with that speech, right? I'm not okay with people talking like that or dehumanizing people or singling out groups of people in this villainization process, because we need to villainize things so that it's more palatable for people to start the rhetoric that's happening and
Right.
the hate, and that's part of this process. And so I want us to come together, and that's the reason that I wanted this to be bipartisan. I mean, I want there to be those of us who are, red, blue, left, right, all of those things, to be able to come together and decide collectively like our values and our morals are what we bring to those spaces.
Right.
And we
Right.
need
Mm-hmm.
the baseline and our line, to be able to I don't know, but to be able to do that with some conscience, right? To be able to move forward with some conscience in it. And
Well,
yeah.
that I think that's why the language part is so important,
Mhm.
right? I think we've lost that. People will dismiss things as, oh, they're just joking, or this word or this that, but language defines how we interpret the world around us. So what we hear creates the definitions of what we see, and I think we're seeing a lot of negotiation even in the meaning of words and how
Mhm.
they land and their impact. So it is like you were talking about humanity before politics, and I think we've gotten all those things sort of wound up into one where we can no longer pull them apart. So why
Mhm.
is that framing important now? What is sort of where is the line of humanity and the line? And we know they cross and they intersect, but they are not the same thing. Human dignity and policy should impact human dignity, but they are not interchangeable. So why is the framing of humanity before politics so important right now?
Because like humanity shouldn't be up for debate. It's not a debate platform thing. It should be how we expect any person of power to behave. We should expect there to be, like, we have a standard of laws, right? Like, we have a
Mhm.
set standard of laws that govern our country, right? And we're all expected to abide by those laws, right? We should all be expected to abide by them. And I think that, like, we also have to decide what that moral code is that we have to decide that, because it's not something you can govern, right? But it's something that should be chosen. Like, there shouldn't be, I don't feel that treating people with basic decency should, that you should have to be blue to value that,
Right,
in the realm of that. And that because I'm blue, then I don't care about the economy,
right,
Right.
right? Like, because I'm a well rounded human who cares about all of those things. But what I want them to see about maybe someone who's more left leaning as well, even though this is not, this is never going to be that. But, just like we talk about what we want people who are having strong views on one side to be right now, I want them to see what people on the other side. The problem that we're seeing right now is some of these things are not up for debate for us. It's not about, like, it's not that we don't care about the economy and about all of those other things, but when we start debating the basic way that we treat people and due process and, all of those things, it gets, that it should cross party lines, and we should all care about how people are treated even at the very basic level. And we've done a lot of work in our country to try to make movement forward, right? That we I don't want to see get rolled back because of
right.
Mhm.
fear.
Hard
We're
won
being
battles,
told,
yes.
we're being
Yep.
pointed at, like, people in the LGBT community, right? Being pointed at, look at that, we should be afraid of people in the LGBT community, right? Well, what does that do? That positions people to fear a certain group of people, so then it's easier to target them, right?
Right.
And so
Yeah.
I want to get people to start talking and having the hard conversations. I'm ready to have the hard ones. So maybe just like a family, we can get past the hard conversations and understand that, like, this is where we are. And I'm not saying that we don't have some problems, but I'm saying that we need good solutions to fix them.
Yeah, you don't fix them without the hard conversations. But
No,
you
you
know
No.
don't
that
fix
to
them.
that end, one thing I've noticed a lot of is the unity is important. You talk about having these conversations with each other. A lot of us try that. We do try, and this is probably true for both sides, all sides, the whole spectrum. I'm sure that it
Mhm.
is. But the
Yeah.
thing that I hear a lot is, you believe this,
Mhm.
rather than what do you believe. They
Yes.
in those extreme spaces, those extreme media spaces, they are defining the other side for them so that they won't engage. I mean, you hear about it. Anyone who is outside of one specific demographic is evil and anti-American and hates this country. Like, if you've been convinced of that, it is hard to be willing to break down that barrier to have a conversation. And I find that I can say to people that I don't know anyone on the left that believes that. I don't believe that. I'm telling you that. And they will say, no, that's what y'all believe. So,
Right.
and I'm not saying it's a one sided thing. I'm sure that happens on both sides. I just can only speak from my experience. But what I think that what we've done is we've so effectively divided, and then the dehumanization, if you no longer think of someone as human, you're not going to be concerned about what happens to them. So I think you're right. The first step is communication, connection, and remembering that we're human. I say this all the time. It is hard to hate up close. You think
Mm-hmm.
you're scared of someone until you sit down and talk to them and realize they're just trying to pay bills, go to their job, take care of their do everything you're doing. You
Mm-hmm.
know, we are all fighting the same battles. And so much of this fear mongering is meant to keep us from unifying on that. So I do think it's important, like you
Yeah.
said, that we remember our humanity. Yeah.
Yeah, especially because the fear mongering is working. It
Right.
is working, and it is keeping
Yeah.
us apart, and it is keeping us from having those conversations with the people that matter to us. It's even myself. I have struggled to reach out to the people that I care about, that I know view things differently, just to have an honest conversation, because it's uncomfortable to have those to disagree in this manner in today's atmosphere, because things go so bad, and you hear about families who just aren't going to family functions anymore. And I think that's just heartbreaking. But it is scary, and it takes a certain level of courage to get to. So, understanding that in order to make these moves and make these changes, we're going to have to really like lean on courage, especially moral courage, where you're looking at the other person and you're not looking at where we disagree. You're essentially extending a hand saying, "Can you come to me in the middle? Let's find middle ground." What role does moral courage play in social change? And when you think about that, like what has history shown us is that moral courage can change in situations like we're facing right now.
Well, I mean, we've witnessed it over and over and over again in history, right? We've witnessed what it was like for civil rights movement. You know, when people did things like sit at lunch counters and refuse to give their seat up on a bus. Happy
Yeah.
birthday, Rosa. We celebrated Rosa Parks' birthday yesterday. And, you know, we saw it with the LGBT movement and people just refusing to disappear
Hmm.
during that, right? And we saw it with the labor activists, right? In the beginning, when we reformed our labor laws and the things of like just, you know, coming together and demanding like they be treated with, you know, decency.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, we've seen it in different movements happen throughout history that like when people come together and decide that they're going to do these and I don't want to call them simple, right? Because it's really not simple to stand in an act of courage, right? It's really not. And for
Yeah.
some people, I want to go back to some people that courage doesn't always look like shouting, right?
Right.
Like right now, like personally, you know, I'm an LGBT person, right? And I told myself, you know, a few years ago when I finally came out that I would never go back in the closet and I would never tell another lie to another human. And I
Mhm.
caught myself shrinking. And I caught myself like, should I change my hair? You know, like, should I grow it
Mhm.
out? And like, because people were starting to treat me differently in spaces, right? They know what's going to come out of my mouth before I even open it
Hmm.
sometimes, right? And then I've been called the unexpected. I got called the unexpected by a pastor on his stage to a huge congregation because I was the unexpected. And so I think for some people, right, those acts of moral courage are just my existence is resistance,
Right.
right? I'm not going to allow you to make me erase me or make me disappear, right? And for some people,
Yeah.
it's not safe right now. You know, a
Yeah.
lot of people are scared. A lot of people, like I've
Yeah.
tried to get people to talk to me to tell me what their line is. And people are understandably afraid of what that will mean for them in families and in their jobs and in the places that they're moving around in. And I think that in itself is frightening that now we're living somewhere to where we have a First Amendment right, we have a freedom to speak, but we're afraid to speak
Right.
because we're afraid what the implication of that is going to mean. But I think if at those acts of moral courage that we have witnessed, it took a lot of courage for Dr. King to walk across that bridge in Selma.
Yeah.
And that changed a nation and the way that we saw things, right? And I don't know what that moment may be for all of us, right? I just know that whatever it looks like, I want to be standing on the right side of it.
Well, and
Yeah.
we may not know in the moment, right? Because Martin Luther King was arrested several times. He was considered a problem. And we hear this same rhetoric because you can never protest politely enough. Let's be honest. You can never
Right.
protest politely enough. You can wear blow up suits and dance and sing and have kids out there having a good time, and it's still going to be a problem for some people. But it
Yes.
is our right. It is our right, and it's a nonviolent protest, and that's the point. But no one made any change in this country by filling out some forms and submitting them to the system that's causing them the problems. Like,
Right.
you've got to disrupt the system for it to pay attention. There's really no other way.
Yeah.
Um, you could fill out a million complaints and forms, it's going to do nothing. So we've got to be honest about what that holding the line looks like, what that pushing back looks like. And but like you say, it doesn't have to be everybody, right? They're in every movement. There are mouths and faces and bodies that show up and are willing to stand up front so that other people feel safe to stand in addition to. And I think we have to
Hmm.
be open to that idea. And that brings me to the idea of this T-shirt, right? So part of your movement, part of the visual part of this connection is the T-shirt. And so why was it important to create something people could wear rather than just talk about?
I think throughout history, right, we've seen movements that had simple, recognizable symbols that let us see each other, right? That we could find each
Hmm.
other in a crowd. And we purposely made it very simple and discreet, right? Because you can wear it in any space. It has no language on it, it has no affiliation to it. It's a simple black t shirt with a white line. And I love the idea of the line and declaring where our line is, right? And I also love the symbolism of the black and white because
Hmm.
it's right or wrong, right? Like, and
Yes.
so that's the reason that we came up with the t-shirt. It was a way to have that. At different points in history, we've had red lipstick, we've had clothespins, we've had the hats that they wore during World War II and things like that too. And I want people to know that, like, the people wearing these, like, you're safe with us. You're safe to talk to me. You're safe to talk to me if you want to have a hard conversation, as long as you come to that hard conversation with an open heart. I'm
Yes.
ready to have those conversations. Tell me your perspective. Let's share. Let's share a cup of coffee. Heck, I'll buy.
Right.
Let's sit down and have that. As long as you can come to it without attacking me, I will work my best to do the same for you in return.
Yes.
And that's an important statement to make. I wanted to. There was a statement, a question in the chat. She's is it Dina Gray Hughes? So how do we separate the up close and personal relationships from the group thought that can be fundamentally different? I have some ideas if you're okay with me jumping in right now. But
Read that again.
I think that's something we all share because we've talked about it before. So anybody can
Sure.
speak to it, right?
mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Denise. Go
So
ahead.
for me, I think that it's really important to remember that these are people you knew before this time, and remember who those people were before this time. And they didn't necessarily change just because their views changed. It's a time where I've struggled to watch some of the people I really care about have this idea and support this administration when I have such respect for them. And I realize that sometimes I have to acknowledge that they are being told different things in the same way that I'm being told different things, and that they truly believe it. And so for me, it's I have to get into their stance and see it from their perspective, because the person I know is still the person I know. The
You're very
crowd is
committed to
difficult
meeting people where they are. You're very committed
where
to
they
meeting
are.
people where
Yeah,
they are.
absolutely. Yeah.
I
But
think in the
that's a me
sense,
thing.
Yeah, well, but I think that's important, right? Like it's part of this question. At Impact, our goal is to provide a space for people to feel individually empowered, right? We don't intend, we do calls to action. We ask everyone to jump in, but there are so many different people leading those that the goal is that we are all there to support each other's initiatives. It's not
Mm-hmm.
about us all being individually aligned. It is about an
Right.
open space for all of us to share what matters. And at its root, I think most of us agree on the line of human dignity. So we're aligned there and all moving in the same direction, even if we're not walking the exact same path. But it's about allowing people space to grow and be empowered and choose their own line, as long as we've all got some fundamental agreement that, the harm is where it stops, or however we choose that's what I was going to add. Mel, did you want to speak to it as
I
well?
do. I think it would be, as a digital professional, right? I think it would be irresponsible for me and having this platform and us having this conversation for me not to say that we are witnessing a moment in time to where we have people watching very different movies,
Yes.
Yes.
right? Our algorithm, people don't understand how that works, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the more you touch something that interests you, it goes into this system and it learns what to feed you, right?
Hmm.
There have been documentaries and things testified before Congress on the fact that these algorithms can shift an election, right? They can sometimes they know how an election is going to turn out, like a smaller one than the presidential one, before it even happens, based upon how people's algorithms in that area are, you know, panning out to be. We all have a digital profile that shows, what we interact with and all of those sorts of things. And like I make sure that I touch things on different platforms so that I can see the middle ground, because on Facebook and social media I touch a lot of things that are left, that are blue. And on Twitter, and I have a truth account, and I watch the things that people are seeing on the right. And when I look at it, sometimes I'm like, if I was watching this painted the way that this is, I can see sometimes where it seems like they don't understand where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
And then they're not seeing the things that I'm seeing on my side in my algorithm. And then I
Right.
want to remind us all that when we're seeing all of these things happen, we need to take time and pause and fact check, right?
Hmm.
Because everyone has a platform right now and everyone has different intentions. Some people's intention is to induce fear and rage, and
Right.
Mm-hmm.
some people's intention is to share the truth. Or some people talk before they have figured out if what they're spreading is true. So we have to be conscious individuals and going back and making sure that we're doing our research, read the policy, read the initiative, read the
Mm-hmm.
language, and then socially consciously share those things. And I think we need to be careful in understanding that the people that we come in contact every day may not believe everything that we have read on a platform, right? Because I don't believe everything on a Democrat platform. And
No.
I don't
Right.
expect that all of the Republicans that I come in contact with believe everything on the Republican platform. And it's a current problem that we have with a two-party system, right? It's set up to make us argue over these things.
I
So I
think
just,
what's
yeah.
go ahead. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, but speaking on that idea of the two-party system and where we've ended up. Yeah, I mean, I think one, the Charlie Kirk situation was very revealing for everybody, and how there were two different
Yes.
algorithms. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
completely defined, entirely different depending on which side, which algorithms you were reading, um, but or seeing. But I think it goes back to too, when you talk about holding this line and our common humanity, common dignity, things like that, we allow ourselves to be fed these things and we disconnect with people so that we don't have to address the values we've now chosen to adopt. But we're seeing in real time right now that democracy can't function if we aren't all holding lines, right? It was completely dependent on that from the get go. It
Yeah.
trusted
Absolutely.
that the people that we would have as representatives and leadership would have some lines. And when that doesn't happen, it starts to crumble. Well, it being a government of the people, it's going to be up to us to really define those lines and start standing on them again, and
Yeah.
make sure that we only bring in leadership that is involved in that social contract that there has to be a line. Anyway, so I
let
think
me
it's
jump in real
interesting.
quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we've had several comments and a couple questions, and so first question, I want to take it back to the t-shirt. What is on the front and back of the shirt? So I'm wearing the shirt today, so I'm gonna stand up if you want to tell people what is on this shirt. Let me move my chair from
on the front is the infamous line. And then the back is completely plain. There's nothing on the back. And on the sleeve, there is a QR code that if someone scans the QR code, it lands on a manifesto that's very kind of vague, but does land with democracy as something that doesn't survive by accident. It's because ordinary people make extraordinary choices in where they stand and where their line is, and reminding us that as long as there are those of us who can come together and determine where those lines are, then we're still here. We still stand. It's not hopeless.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's where the QR code leads. But the t-shirt is very, very vague and nondescript. And I wanted it that way so that people could wear it. Like, how often, I'm wondering how often people are going to scan this barcode. Like, I have like a thing that can tell me like how many times it's been scanned, but that's all the information that it actually gives me. But I wanted to keep it very simple.
So
I wanted to keep it very simple so that people didn't, that there's nothing to argue about a shirt with a white line on it, right? It doesn't say anything that's triggery or offensive or, that anyone could misconstrue. It's just a signal that says, this is who I am, and I have a line I'm unwilling to cross.
Right. And it doesn't create divisiveness just in the presentation of it, which I think is important.
Right.
And then Heather Avila asked, is there a local meeting about this? I wanted to just briefly mention that, Southeast Texas Impact Initiative is a group that is local, and you can join, and you can go to our social media on Facebook. We're on TikTok. But there also is a website, right? Is there a website, or is it just a Facebook page?
No, there is a website. Are you talking to me?
Yes.
Yes, Mel, sorry. For the last line, is there also a website that someone can go to get more?
There is a website that I'm still building out. Right now, it currently has access to t-shirts and just some language to get people wrapped around the idea of what it is. And this is very new, guys. This is only about 6 weeks old. So I'm still building out the capability of what that's going to be. I've thought about having a forum on it. I thought about having a place that people could even anonymously leave their stories. I don't want it to be a place that people leave name calling and things like that, but I want more stories about who are you and how has this moment in time affected you personally? Like, what does that look like for you, so that we can put human stories behind a very broad and overreaching topic? Who are the humans being affected at this moment? I would love to do videos of people, but as far as there being a meeting, like we've talked about that, right? We've talked about giving it a place to have like community for people to like be able to talk around that. I would love for us to support, for us to we can also engage with the Southeast Texas Impact Initiative and everything like that too, right? Like, because we all are stronger in this together. This is not, we want to support each other, right? Like in our movements and the things that we are going through that are going to make a positive impact moving forward. But yes, Dina, we had a conversation recently, and we talked about that at one point in time, there used to be mass meetings, right? And they weren't calls to action in the beginning as much as they were community, right? They were a way for people to talk about all of these things and figure out what it is and where all of our places in all of that, and know that, in this moment in time that's so divisive and so volatile, I think that it would be really great to have a community and a place where we don't feel so alone.
Speaking to that, the mutual aid, the cooperation with other organizations. For anyone listening, February 22nd, we're going to have a community organizer mixer for all these organizations, people doing work. If you volunteer in the community, elected
Mm-hmm.
officials, anybody doing the work to make our community better, because it's important that we connect, right? There's a lot to do. And instead of us all just reinventing the wheel, we can lean into each other, lean on each other, support each other and amplify each other and show up to do the work together. So I do like this idea, right? This coming together, because at its heart, community makes the difference. Community
Mm-hmm.
makes the difference every time. So I do like that idea. And you're talking about the digital spaces you're building and how it needs to be other people's stories. So to that end, what does it mean to you to be the architect and not the leader of this movement?
I just think that I pointed out something that everyone else is feeling, right? Like
Mm,
I pointed out this thing that I
Yeah.
kept feeling, and I'm trying to put some language and some common ground around it so we can build it into some sort of movement that causes a positive impact, right? And I want to walk beside people in it. I'm not asking you to believe what I believe. I'm
right.
not trying to tell you what to believe. I'm asking you where your line is, right? And I'm
Mm-hmm.
asking you what that now the only definitive thing that I will say in that is I only support lines that do no harm to
Hmm.
other people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we need to find a space to where that's who I want us to become, right? Like in that I don't, because we can all say, well, my line is something negative, right? And all of those sorts of things. And that's not the kind of lines that I'm talking about. I'm talking about the lines in what will allow to happen to our fellow man,
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
and those sorts of things. But like, I'm not asking you to follow me. I'm asking where are we going together?
Right. Saying this, it sounds like a pacifist movement. So I want to talk about that a little bit, because I know a lot of us are committed to nonviolence. We are committed to nonviolence. But one thing I think about a lot is that we're all peaceful, we're not harmless. We don't encourage harm on other people, but we recognize the need to stand up, even in the face of violence, to protect our collective and communal peace, right? That's important too. So I think those distinctions are necessary, because I think everyone that we have connected with and worked with, they're all equally committed to nonviolence,
Right.
just as much as they're committed to not backing down. And so I think it's important that we recognize what that line means, right? You're
Mm-hmm.
standing on something. You're not aggressing past it. Like, this is the limit. And so I think that's a very interesting perspective on that.
I think, and adding on to that, Jennifer, I think that also is a focus that this allows for, because there's a lot of misinformation about what we stand for. People who
Right.
do protests, people who are doing advocacy, that we are out here to cause damage, to be violent, to be that we are a specific type of person. And I
Mhm.
think that putting our faces, going, this is who I am. I am
Right.
standing in this on this line, but this is who I am, not what you're being told. We are not
Right.
monsters. We're not out here to destroy everyone's life. We are just saying this is not okay, and we're not going to stay quiet about it.
And we'd stand on that line for those who oppose us just as much as we would for those who are on our side, right?
Right,
That's the point. This is my line, and I think everyone is deserving of dignity or no harm or whatever our line is, right?
right,
But
hmm
when we stand on those lines, we stand on them on behalf of everybody. It's no longer about sides at all.
right, right,
Right. I don't
Um,
think that it's political, it's human, right?
right.
What are we going to decide as humans? And, you know, I don't, I don't condone, and I don't think any of us condone violence,
No.
right?
no,
And I don't expect anyone to do or react the way that I react. But
hmm
I'm in a space where doing nothing is no longer an option for me.
Right. Right.
I think there's also a distinction between I will never go out to seek causing harm or to seek violence, but I also will not stand silently while you allow it to happen to someone else either. And
Or
that's
me
the,
or yourself. Yeah.
or yourself.
Exactly.
Like we're passive, but we're not meek, and we're not weak. We just have strong beliefs and how this should work, but we will stand on our line if we need to. Um,
Yeah, we have a question
So
from Heather.
yes. So when we do not stay quiet about it, what action do we take that creates change, I guess, or that protects someone else?
I think it looks different for everybody, right? Because we all have, we have a million movements and things that people care about. We have all of these different rights and all of these different groups. But we need a place to where we come together and have some solidarity in that, that we all stand. I see these shirts that say I stand for humanity, I stand for Black lives, I stand for like all of these different things, right?
Yeah.
And so, right now I can't tell you what action that you need to take. Only you are going to know that in your space, right? And we all need to be acting in the ways that we feel, in, now mind you, within the rule of law,
Yes.
right?
Very important.
Non-violently.
Yes.
And what makes sense in those moments. It could be as simple as not letting it pass by when somebody says a hate word in front of you.
It's talking about that too. I think it's important to note that every avenue in that direction is an important one, and
Right.
that's the beauty of coming together. Is because we all have different talents and skills. You're a digital creator. I got a big mouth, right? But research and stuff is my
Married,
skill.
fate in heaven.
Yep.
But research, but in honesty, research and policy and all of that is my avenue.
Right.
There are people who love to protest, who want to get out and be loud. I like to go to representatives' office and make them annoyed that I won't leave, right? So we all have different avenues and they're all important. Some people are
Yes.
healers and nurturers. Back to the thing
Yes.
you were saying, if you're someone who's in a space and you hear something that is harmful to someone else, you may not be the kind of person that gets loud about it and pushes back, but you may be the kind of person that extends your hand to the person who was harmed by it and
Right.
reminds them they're not alone and they have
That's a
community.
great and
It
valid point.
all matters. It all
Yeah.
matters. So I think that's important. So when you look back on the last line from years from now, what do you hope people say it stood for?
I hope that people say that it helped bridge some of the division that we're feeling, and like that it helped people feel seen, and that it, you know, we stand on the shoulders of giants, guys. We stand on the shoulders of giants that I don't want their work to be in vain, right? We can't let go of that sacrifice and that all of those movements that brought us and led us to this place we are today. And so I hope they say that we helped hang on to that progress and help
Welcome in the wake, yeah.
in the wake and help pushing it forward. I by no means compared this, or especially me, to any of those giants, right? I just hope that I can honor their work moving forward and that we can all honor what they stood for.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
So, we're
Because
getting
it does
close.
feel like we're fighting. I'm sorry. I was
No,
just going
you
to
go.
say,
Go
it does
ahead,
feel like
Danae.
we're fighting fights that were won, and that we are fighting the same fights that we've watched people fight and win. And then we won it, and then they took it away again. So we're just going to keep fighting.
It is
I
crazy
did
to me
want
to
to make
think
the
my
comment.
daughter has.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Jennifer.
I was just going to say it's crazy to me that my daughter faces having less rights than my mother did.
Yes.
That's a
Yes.
weird. Those hard fought. I mean, people died. There was violence. There were struggles. People went through a lot to win these battles, and we're just handing them over and going to make our kids do it all over again. I struggle with that. But go ahead, Danae. That's really what I was.
I wanted to make another comment to Heather because I know that I kind of do things a little bit different. But one of the things that I do when I'm trying to talk about changes, we know Facebook comment sections is a brutal place right now. And I make a point of just continuously responding, very logic minded, who I am, how it is. This is what the law is. This is what, this is why you can't. And I oftentimes have people ask me why, because the people I'm approaching are not open to hearing what I'm saying. And my response has always been that I'm not doing it for them. I'm doing it for anyone else reading those comments.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's whatever way that you feel comfortable, that's how you do it. How I do it isn't going to work for you, Jennifer or Mel. It's not going to work for someone else. That's how I do it. I know that I have a way of talking to people that resonates. So I use that in those situations. Am I going to change this person's mind who is spewing such hatred? Probably not. But it might change his opinion when they see us constantly responding differently and not matching that energy and not respond, just keeping it simple and keeping it decent. And I feel like that's an important way that I do it. So finding your way is just as equally as important as finding the community, but the community will help you find a way that you're comfortable with, because you can kind of get out of survival mode for a little while. So
Yes, there is definitely safety in this unity, right? By putting those comments online that you do, your whole movement, Mel, is kind of reminding people you're not alone, that it is safe. I mean, nobody can guarantee safety, but we have options. So I first, I know we're getting close to the end of time here, so I want to just,
yeah.
do you have anything else you feel is important for us to know about the last line, Mel, that we haven't covered or discussed?
I want to remind everybody that this is a people's movement, right? This is the people. So like I'm looking for us to build it together, right? I'm looking for us to move that forward. And I just want everybody to know that I'm in this with you. Like I'm in this
Yeah.
with you. I'm not. I don't have any quit in me, right? And so, and that I'm not perfect, right? Like it's public speaking and all this stuff completely out of my wheelhouse. I'm not perfect, and so like let's just have a conversation.
All
Yeah.
right, so if you're listening and you're unsure where your line is, I think that's okay, right? The important thing that we're sort of learning through this conversation is you should ask yourself that question before someone else answers it for you. Because I think that's what we're seeing. If we're not committed to what our boundary is, then it's easily movable. And those boundaries are being challenged quite a bit on the daily right now. So
Yeah.
ask yourself that question. Think about what is too far for you and work backwards. Sit with it, talk about it. And as we've heard from Mel today, and you don't have to do it alone, right? There are other people in this same space working in these ways.
Yeah.
I just want to say that I'm grateful to both of you and everyone who joined us. I want to remind people that at Southeast Texas Impact Initiative, we believe in democracy, and dignity is not abstract. Those two
Yeah.
ideals live in everyday choices we make. And today's conversation reminds us that holding the line doesn't start in Washington, it starts where we stand, each of us individually. So, Mel, I want to tell you, thank you for being part of that work. I know it's important, and it is always encouraging to me to meet people moving in the same direction. So I just
Yeah.
wanted to share that.
I wanted to,
Anyone
I
else?
wanted to,
Final thoughts?
I wanted to thank you guys real quick too before we go come off. For you guys have been nothing but supportive of me since I started this, and
Yeah.
I am beyond grateful and ready to collaborate and support each other as we move forward. Like you guys are angels in my book.
Well, I have been a fan since I heard about it. So it's not hard to be
Yes.
supportive, because I'm very excited about this. I do want to I just do want to say that this is a new podcast that we are starting. And so we are going to be doing this every other Thursday at 7 p.m. So if you want to come back, we're going to have a multitude of topics. It's never going to be the same thing, but we're going to address, if this wasn't your thing, we will get to your thing.
And feel free to submit topic ideas if there's something you'd like to hear us talk about, for sure.
Absolutely.
Thank you all very much. Have a great evening.
This was great. I'll see you guys next time.
See ya.